All right, it is 5 o'clock. I will call this meeting of the Finance and Personnel Committee to order, and we will begin with the roll. Alder Ackley?
Here.
Alder Flicky-Pineski?
Here.
Alder Perella?
Here.
Alder Feldy? Do we have anybody online? No? Alder Feldy is excused. Mitchell is here. We have 4. That makes a quorum. Will you all please join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, then, barring any objections from the committee, we will again skip over item number 4, the introductions. And seeing no objection, we will move on to item 5, which is approval of the minutes from our November 13th meeting. Is there any discussion on the minutes? If not, we would be looking for a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
We have motion and second, then seeing no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it, and the motion passes. And that brings us to item number 6, which is RO number 72 of 2324, submitting a tax levy certification for the 2023-2024 school year from the Sheboygan Area School District.
Good evening. This item is just for your reference. We get this every year from the school district. It's allowing us to put together the tax bills. So we are finishing up that process in finance, so it's just for your information.
Any questions or comments on this one? If not, I believe we'd be looking for a motion to file.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and second, then seeing no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it, and the motion passes. And that brings us to item number 7, which, if it is okay with the committee, we'll take items 7 through 10 at the same time. These are a resolution expressing the intent of the Common Council of the City of Sheboygan to exercise its police powers in levying a special assessment for the 2023 cost of operating and maintaining the off-street parking facilities within parking assessment district numbers 1, 2, 4, and 5, respectively.
Thank you. These are annual resolutions that come forward for your approval, just allowing us to start the process to make these assessments on the parking assessment districts. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Alder Flicky-Pineski?
1, 2, 4, and 5. What happened to 3? Is that the church?
I may have to defer to Chuck if he has any history on Pad 3. However, my understanding after talking to Derek Menk, the parking director,
Right.
It's just there are properties towards the river that are included, including, it's kind of by the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
Or, yes, Chamber of Commerce building, but those have never been maintained or assessed through this procedure.
Never ever.
Never might be a stretch, but
Okay.
as long as Derek has been here.
Okay. Okay.
Alder Perella?
Yeah, I just wanted, the special assessment is only for the business, right? Or property, the commercial properties, not for residential properties.
Correct. And so each parking district have all the expenses tied directly to the section of property, and that it is then split up amongst the commercial properties that are within that district. So,
Right, because I couldn't see, I knew that, but I couldn't see anywhere specified that the commercial properties that
sure.
that receive the special assessment.
yeah, they're by parcel numbers, I believe, is how they were listed. So,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, thank you.
Any other discussion on these 4 items? If not, we would be looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, a second, then seeing no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye. The ayes have it, and the motions pass. That brings us to item number 11, which is resolution number 102 of 2324. A resolution authorizing an amendment to the 2023 budget and directing the finance director to make an advance from the general fund to the redevelopment authority fund to fund land purchases within tax incremental district number 17.
Thank you. Alder Filicki-Pineski definitely has some background on this one, but the redevelopment authority has the opportunity and has purchase agreements, I believe, in place to acquire several properties down just a few blocks away. However, the redevelopment authority does not have sufficient cash to pay for these properties. So what this resolution is actually doing is taking general fund dollars, loaning them to the RDA. However, from there, TID 17 will be repaying back the city. So I can answer any questions you have, but that it's more so that there is cash on hand to pay for those properties.
Questions or comments on this one? Alder Perrella?
Yes, I was actually wondering if the chair of the RDA can explain a little bit about the, the whole process about this.
As you will recall, or you may know, redevelopment takes a long time, and the properties have been vacated piecemeal, and it was to the benefit of the developer to be able to have the redevelopment authority have all of the property, pull it all together, and we would be the owners so that they would then come to develop the redevelopment authority property. We don't have the cash flow. We have done this previously. The city loans us the money, and it's in a TID. The TID will pay it back. Previously, the city loaned us the money, and we paid it back eventually from our own funds. But it's a process of how the money can flow in a timely fashion. It's basically an accounting mechanism, I think, that just makes the development work, the complex development work.
May I?
Yes?
Yes.
So for my own education, then that way the RDA will own the properties.
Yes.
And then we have a developer already,
Yes.
correct?
Yes. Yes.
So that developer is going to be there. It's not that the developer is going to disappear.
I hope not.
I mean, there is a chance. I mean, I just want to know, what is that situation with the developer? We purchased the properties on the basis that there is a
There
developer.
is a developer.
But we
Yes.
don't have any agreement with the developer.
Yeah. Kind of. Go ahead.
Yes, so the intent is that we would purchase the property through RDA, and then that property would transfer to the developer, and that would be our commitment. Essentially, that's breaking the chain of potential contamination issues there. So we're acquiring it with the understanding that we will use the TIF proceeds to help clean up that site. And we are currently working with, I believe that one, we're using the Idle Sites program. So that has to be a government entity that makes that application for the cleanup funds from, I think the DNR is the funder of that program.
Okay.
Or WEDC is the funder. So we have to be the owner at the point of application. So that's what will happen here. So RDA, being a city entity, allows us to apply for that grant.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And the RDA did discuss at length which was the best entity to own the property and to make it work. And it was us. So we got the bogey.
Much appreciated.
Any other questions or comments on this one? Not, I will say thank you for the discussion, and we would be looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second then, seeing no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye, the ayes have it, and the motion passes. That brings us to item number 12, which is General Ordinance Number 32 of 2324, an ordinance amending various sections of the Sheboygan Municipal Code relating to personnel.
So this ordinance is in front of you. It primarily does three things. First, it changes a number of the provisions related to the city administrator. Second, it moves some items around so that they make sense where they're located in the code. And third, it makes some clarifications where the ordinance was unclear. The primary thing, though, is the changes related to the administrator's role. These were all things that were worked out with actually two of the members of the committee who were part of the subgroup that worked on that, and was all sort of, the work was complete prior to hiring Administrator Bradley, and now we're putting this all into ordinance.
Questions, comments on this one? Alder Flicky-Pineski?
Thank you. I have several. The city engineer needs only to be hired and approved by the head of the department.
So all we're doing with regard to city engineer is moving it from one section to another section. So there's no change in how the engineer is hired or approved.
Okay. Reserved showed up several places.
That's just when, let's just say,
Legal people.
software issues, when we leave sections open because we're eliminating them or we're moving them to other places, the software just reserves those sections. It means they're not currently in use. So where it says reserved, there is no to dash whatever. It's just reserved. Maybe someday we'll use it again.
Okay. Can we keep going?
By all means.
All right. The purchasing agent is now going to be under the finance department, and there were a lot of changes in finance, and it looked like a whole lot of reorg.
Really, so again, a lot of it is moving things around. The purchasing agent, nothing really is changing other than its location in the code. With regard to finance, other than, again, moving some things around so that they make sense, so that they're together, the only real change is related to the administrator role, which is that for a time, the administrator took on the role as comptroller.
Yes.
And that is now being moved back to the finance department. And
Perfect.
where
Okay.
someone in that department will fill that role as comptroller rather than
Okay.
the administrator.
That was one of my questions further down the list. City attorney, yours was just said whatever the state statute said. Is that usual and customary?
Probably. I don't think we even made any changes to that one, did we?
All I know is that it was as per state statutes.
Yeah, I don't think we actually changed anything. I think that's remaining as it is in the code.
Okay, and then, the city administrator, it stated it was not a policy-making position. And when we were defining that job position, we were defining the job description and then the contract wording. So may I presume that what's not stated here will be stated in a contract with the city administrator?
Right. So you will recall that in addition to working on these ordinance changes, our subgroup that worked on this did draft a job description. That job description has already been
Through,
approved and has
right.
gone through, and the contract that the administrator entered into was based on that job description. So this is sort of the final piece of the puzzle. Is now that he's here, the decision of that subcommittee had been, let's wait till he's here, give him a chance to also review it, which he did, basically said no objections to it. And so now we're ready to go
Okay,
with it as is.
And
Yeah.
then-
So it's the final piece of the puzzle. The other puzzle's already in place.
we got it, okay. And then I noticed that we removed in several places at-will employment by the pleasure of the appointing authority.
This
Why
is
did we
one
do
of
that?
those clarifications where that language was in there, but then it was sort of backed back out by another section we have in the code that says how we remove those department heads. And so to be very clear, we're taking that out of those sections and just relying on the more general section, which is not changing.
So how do we remove department heads
2/3 vote,
of the council?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's how you remove appointed
Anybody.
department heads.
Appointed.
I should be clear about that, because there
Okay,
are elected
elected.
department heads too.
Elected department heads have to be,
Elected department heads have to be, if they were to be removed, it would be pursuant to the process that is already contained in the state statutes.
thank you, okay. The city assessor now comes under finance, or has it always been under finance?
The city assessor is not really under finance per se. I didn't think we had moved assessor either. So you're looking at a particular section number?
Well, probably. Let's see. City assessor. There was 20 pages of this stuff. City assessor was, we got the comptroller, the purchasing agent. I'm on page 26 of the document. Purchasing agent.
Given that the document has 16 pages, I'm not sure, you may be looking at something else.
I have
Page 9,
the city assessor for section 2502 on page 7.
page 7. Page 7 of the document, page 7 of the document.
Yeah, so the only change there is the same change we're making with the other departments, is that it's appointed by the common council based on the recommendation of the administrator, and not also the mayor, and also not being an at-will appointment.
It is not an at-will appointment.
Right. It's the same change that's being made to all the other department heads. I will say the assessor section will probably, I've already put in a memo internally that we want to look at that again, because there are some, we may want to think about how we do that, given the change now. Our previous appointed, hired assessor has retired, and there's now a company running that.
Yes,
So there's some
yes.
things we may want to look at, but that all occurred after we took care of this. So that'll be another time. But for
So-
now, the only change that's happening for the assessor is simply that, just like all the other department heads, we're taking out the language about at will, and we're taking the language about the mayor appointing.
Okay, and I also noticed that there were sections that were the city administrator, and then there were sections that the city administrator in collaboration with the mayor. So what was the divergence there, and how did each of those chunks end up
So
with those words?
can you point to on the red line what you're looking at? For the most part, what we did is we removed the mayor's appointment role and simply made it the administrator's appointment role for the department heads.
Well, city assessor is one of them.
Right.
You took out the mayor,
But that was pretty standard on the various department heads.
and the director of public works, you took out the mayor.
Right. All the ones that had the mayor don't anymore. Appointed department heads, it wasn't always consistent. It is now consistently appointed by the administrator with council
With
approval.
council. Okay. There are things under the duties and responsibilities of the administrator that do have with input from the mayor. That was
Yes,
intentional.
that was intentional. That was part of the discussion we had with you and Alder Mitchell
Right.
and others who were in that
Right.
meeting.
Okay. Okay. Just checking.
Yeah, the administrator is treated somewhat differently than the other department heads because it is a somewhat
The
different role.
administrator, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then HR, the HR director, and in practice, this may look better than it does on paper, but the HR director can modify the table of organization.
So the change
At
here
will.
is actually to return to how this was originally written. So previously, the Director of HR and Labor Relations maintained the program and had some authority to make reviews and changes and recommend to the administrator certain modifications. Then for a while, that was switched all to the administrator. Basically, the administrator took on many of the roles of the HR director. We're switching it back. And that was also all part of that discussion in that group.
Okay, I'm wondering where the checks and balances come. Because
So
all the time it got,
Yeah, so if you look at, I don't know if, which, you may
I'm
be
on
looking at
page
the.
15 of the document.
Page 15, so on page 15, we're just remove the, once approved, that it would need to be forwarded to the city administrator, and then we remove the upon notice from the city administrator that all changes have been made. And that's because we're no longer having the administrator do this, we're now having the work done by the HR director, but it still does need to, once they make the changes, there's recommendations to the administrator or things that may have to be approved here. But what you're seeing on page 15 is merely changes that needed to be made because we're no longer having the HR director, or no longer having the administrator serve as sort of HR director
overseer.
in chief.
Okay,
Yeah.
Alder Flickipaneski, if I can
Sure.
jump in there.
sure.
I did have a list of questions. I'm
Oh,
glad I let you go first because
wonderful.
I don't have a list anymore. One item that did stand out in the same area, though, so page 14, we're looking at section 18.1, B5. The old language said the city administrator may approve, modifying, adding, deleting, so on. The way that it's changed, the HR director is going to recommend to the administrator, but does removing the language that grants the administrator may approve those changes still allow them to actually enact them?
Right, so what that does is, now it refers to another section because there are other sections in chapter 18 that deal with all of that.
Okay.
So basically what you've done is instead of just saying, administrator, you're running this whole program, we're now saying, HR director, you get to be the HR director. And, but where there are things that need to be approved or modified, you can recommend that to the administrator. And then you move to the process elsewhere in chapter 18.
Sounds good to me. Thank you. Alder Flickipaneski, did you have any more?
Nope, that's fine.
Alder Perrella?
Yeah, a couple of questions have been asked, and then just one about, I have been answered, sorry. And then, so we did remove the policy-making responsibility from the city administrator, correct? That's what we did. I saw that.
Yeah,
and
we changed the language to clarify that it is not a policy-making
right.
position. Yeah, I
Right.
don't know, to say we removed it would suggest that
It was always
it was a policy-making position
okay.
before. I think that
Okay.
there were those who interpreted it different ways, and we are now
Sure.
clarifying that it is
Very
not.
good. So we modified it to reflect what the actual responsibilities of city administrator regarding policymaking is. However, then also there is on page 11, there is a reference to the city administrator capability of making amends regarding some policies.
So you have granted, for example, on page 11, you're probably talking about,
C3.
yeah, so that is the purchasing policy, and you have authorized previously, and so this is not actually new language, it's moved language, but you've authorized the administrator to basically put into place a purchasing policy and to notify the Common Council of any changes to that policy.
Are there other policies that are an exception to the capability of the role of city administrator to modify, amend, or and maintain policies.
Yeah, could you consider it an exception? It could be, or it could be considered a delegation. I like the language delegation. So basically what you've clarified here is that the administrator works for you as a council. You're the policy board. You get to establish policy, but you've delegated certain roles to the administrator to do, and one of those is that purchasing policy.
So there are others.
There are others, yeah,
Okay.
primarily around HR, but there are others, yes.
That are not explicitly mentioned in this document.
In this document,
They are
not
not.
necessarily, because
Yeah.
we're not making changes. So the way to think of this document, the 16-page document, is the red line, where we basically, you're seeing every change that's been made to the ordinance. Many of them, unfortunately, our system, if we were able to use it the same way that you would use Outlook, you would actually see red and underlined, and then you'd also see green for move, but that's not the way this program works. It just deletes and adds. So unfortunately, some things that are just being moved look like a deletion in one place and an addition in the other place. But all you're seeing is any change. The language as a whole, if it's not in here, is remaining as is. There's no change.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this one? If not, we would be looking for a motion to approve.
I move to approve and send to council.
And second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, then seeing no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Chair votes aye, the ayes have it, and the motion passes. Our next regularly scheduled meeting will be December